Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the TV Pilot's License flight number 53 with service to Pokemon World. We ask that you please fasten your headphones, secure your podcasting device, and remember, if your Pokemon is not in its Pokeball during flight, please make sure to have your emotional support Pokemon documents available to show your nearest flight attendant.
Welcome to the TV Pilot's License. My name is Geoff Kerbis, joined by Rich Inman and Max Singer. How are you boys doing today?
God, we couldn't even get a direct flight to Pallet Town. These budget cuts are killing our airline.
Look, there's only one airport in the entire universe, and this is what we're flying into.
Well, for the folks who are not in the know, we are doing Pokemon this week, which it's wild to say this is a 25-year-old show, so can't wait to talk a little bit more about it. But before we dive too deep into the world of Pokemon, Max, do you mind telling folks what this podcast is all about?
Here at TV Pilot's License, we break down and analyze the pilot episodes of some of TV's most famous, or in some cases, infamous shows. We talk about how these series came to be and were originally created, if they're effective pilot episodes of making us want to watch more, and if they could be made today. Go back and stream our other episodes wherever you get your podcasts from. Check us out on YouTube to enjoy our smiling faces. And if it is your first time flying with us, then welcome aboard today.
And Rich, what is your question of the week?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank the 10,000 listeners that came in for the I Want to Marry Harry episode. Harry Heads, we see you, and welcome back. I would love to know, because, you know, this is a show that's pretty ubiquitous for all of our childhood years, I would say. I don't think I knew anyone in 10th grade, when I was 10, or in 3rd grade, who didn't like Pokemon to a nearly feral degree. And I would just love to know, because we're completely out of left field, which Pokemon do you think is the tastiest? Which one would you eat right now?
Oh, Max. I've only thought about this half my adult life.
Go for it, Max.
Yeah, so I gotta go with the two that are just shellfish. I'm either going with Shelder, who's like a little purple, kind of like clam Pokemon, nice. Or I'm going with Krabby and its evolved Kingler, who are basically Alaskan king crabs. Ooh. I'm boiling a Krabby with some Old Bay seasoning, and I'm dunking him in some hot drawn butter, and I'm having a great meal.
See, Max, I'm so glad you said that, because I went very similar with Paras or Parasect. These are both also crab-based Pokemon. They're very shellfish-based. But then, you know, if I'm going to get a little bit exotic and taking a chance, I'm going to go after a Psyduck. I think that a Psyduck looks a little bit meaty, a little bit fatty. The only issue is it might take over my mind, which is problematic, and I might end up, you know, going somewhere else.
Can you
Honestly,
imagine
hallucinogenic duck sounds amazing.
A little like Psyduck confit with some pan butter? Oh, man.
Ooh, little jus d'orange.
Rich, I'm very curious. What are you thinking as far as a tasty menu?
I'm going Magikarp sashimi. Imagine a flying fish with no predators. That is a tender. That is a tender fish.
It is the dodo of the Pokemon world for sure.
So we all picked water Pokemon then?
Yeah, I mean, like, it would be a little bit weird if I like just threw out like Geodude. I don't know how that works. I'm not eating a rock. I
feel like you could get some good steak cuts out of a Taurus. That's like a bull Pokemon. I feel like there's some good flank steak cuts in there somewhere.
I'll say it. What does Diglett taste like? What is it? What is it, like a potato?
Wait, so if we're on this trend, can Ditto taste like anything, or does Ditto just taste like Ditto? This is a very important question.
Ditto is the Impossible Burger of Pokemon.
You just whisper what you'd like it to taste like just into its hypothetical ear. Well, Rich, that's a wild question, and I am very appreciative of it.
Honestly, this could be the entire podcast right here, and I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, I would be absolutely fine. Well, before we dive too deep into Pokemon, a quick word from our sponsor. Welcome back.
Diglett Burgers.
Impossible Burgers. Call us. But before we dive too deep into Pokemon, a quick synopsis. Ash Ketchum, his yellow pet Pikachu, and his human friends explore a world of powerful creatures. Very simple, almost too simple. Max, tell us how this show came to be.
So today we are talking about the pilot episode of Pokemon titled I Choose You, which originally aired in Japan on April 1st, 1997, and in the US on September 7th of 1998. And I want to take it back. This is a show that obviously comes from a successful video game series first. And so rather than just try to discuss like one executive at an animation studio, I want to talk about how Pokemon and the Pokemon phenomenon came to be. So our journey today is going to begin in 1982 when Satoshi Tajiri starts the magazine Game Freak, but after a few years goes from just writing about video games to creating ones of his own. In the early 90s, inspired by his childhood hobby of searching for bugs and tadpoles, Tajiri begins developing the concept for a game called Pocket Monsters, which he pitches to Nintendo. Fun fact, the game was originally developed under the name Capsule Monsters, or Capumon, but they were unable to secure a trademark for the word capsule, leading to the renaming of Pocket Monsters.
What?
Nintendo as Tajiri worked with legendary game creator Shigeru Miyamoto, responsible for Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda, for 6 years developing his concept before two versions of Pocket Monsters, red version and green version, were released in Japan in February of 1996. From the success of these games, a trading card game was introduced in October of 1996, and an anime series follows suit in Japan in spring of 1997. The game's creator was hesitant on the idea of an anime, worried that if the series flopped, it would affect game sales, and if the series reached a natural conclusion, it would also signal an end to the relevancy of the game. In an effort to not show favoritism to one of the game's three starter Pokemon, it was agreed a new choice should be the protagonist starter. Production decided on Pikachu, feeling it would appeal to both boys and girls, as well as their mothers. Just over 6 months from its premiere, the anime was the highest rated program on all of TV Tokyo. The process of bringing Pokemon over to America begins with Minoru Arakawa, president of Nintendo of America, who first played the games at an expo in Japan in late 96. The American offices, though, felt the game had no chance in the US, as American children wouldn't have the attention span for RPGs. Just a bunch of dum-dums who they felt only wanted to play like Madden 96 on their N64s. 4Kids Entertainment, the licensing agent for Nintendo of America, believed in it, though, and spent an incredible amount of money to secure the rights in America and promote the show. In a bold move, 4Kids president Norman Grossfield offered the show for free to local TV stations across the country in exchange for just a portion of advertising revenue that didn't yet exist to help get the series into as wide of syndication as possible. Grossfeld was also responsible for the tagline "Gotta Catch 'em All," which went through a heated battle with the FCC to be deemed not an ad aimed at children, and that "Gotta Catch 'em All" was in reference to how the gameplay worked. The show premiered in the United States on September. The show premiered in the US on September 7th, with the first American video games debuting 3 weeks later, and Pokemania was ready to take over the US.
And how it did.
That. Absolutely. And let's just dive into Pokemon. And this show, we don't get a cold open, but we do get a banger of a theme song. I absolutely love this theme song. I was singing to this theme song with it, with all the little glimpses of animation and potential journeys that are to come with Ash Ketchum and friends.
Oh my god, this 80s glam rock montage theme song it's one of the most iconic songs of the 90s. Like, not even just TV theme songs. Like, I feel like every single person in the late 90s knew the Pokemon theme song. It was like, you couldn't escape it. It just feels like such an ingrained part of our culture.
Like, it's wild to say there's a show out there that had 2 songs, and this was a show for children that had 2 songs that were iconic, like late 90s, early 2000s songs. That's not a thing that I can think of. Like,
according to JW, Gem had 181 of them, so suck it, Pokemon.
My favorite part in this opening sequence, though, is there's an animated scene where Ash is like throwing out like a Pokeball, like an "I choose you" moment, and he has this wind up and this leg kick. It's like, okay, Shohei Ohtani, I see you there.
And from there, a dual threat was born.
Oh my god. anything else about the theme song or
God.
and yeah,
if they let Journey or Loverboy or Europe record, like, what a huge miss from all these bands from the 80s not getting the chance to record this song as the original, because that still would have been top 5 in their Spotify right now.
Yeah, I would very easily listen to, like, let's just throw out a random one. If Aerosmith put out a recording of this, I would 100% listen to Steve Tyler screaming this song at me. Like,
Pokeball! Pokeball!
God damn it.
So, from this amazing opening, and we're already hyped, right? Like, I was instantly bought in. We get this great nod to the video games that you were talking about, Max. Of like seeing on the screen the graphics that we would see on Game Boy at this point in time from Nintendo. But then we dive deeper into what's actually happening. What does this battle represent?
Knowing that
reality?
the games in the US didn't come out for 3 weeks until after this episode aired, though, if you're like a 9-year-old kid, are you just eating your Cocoa Puffs and be like, what the hell is this?
I was gonna say, because I honestly did not know that it was a Game Boy game first, or was it for a different console first?
Game Boy first.
Game Boy first. Okay. Yeah, as soon as someone on like the schoolyard told me that it was also a Game Boy game, I'm like, I've never wanted a video game more than this in my entire life. You really connect with the need to catch them all, and also I had no idea about the catching bugs and things that the creator was relating it to. But God, it's so wholesome, and you just want to run through an absolute wall listening to that theme song.
So I don't want to dissuade the audience from thinking this entire pilot is an ad for toys. This is like no different than
it's a great ad though.
This is one of the best ads I have ever watched. I have never been happier to watch 22 and a half minutes of advertisement. I have a question for you both, though. Do you remember what your starting Pokemon was? If you had one, if you played the game as a kid?
So you're either Charmander, the fire type, Squirtle, the water type, or Bulbasaur, the grass type. I usually went Charmander or Squirtle, depending on, like, I don't know, how I wanted my journey to go. It was always one of those two. I never picked
What about
Bulbasaur.
you, Rich?
Yeah, I gotta say Charmander's for the boys. I think it's not a good idea to not start that way, or it felt like I don't know, like we all have a little bit of pyro in us as a child. I'm like, there's nothing that beats fire. What am I gonna, like, very gently get someone wet and that's how they're gonna lose their powers?
I mean, you say that, but I was a Squirtle boy for life. I low key like Squirtle. No one likes War Turtle, but then like Blastoise was my dog.
Yeah.
Like
you got a turtle, a giant turtle that is absolutely armed to the teeth with on its own back. I mean, that's also. I mean, once you level up, that's also very much a boy. That's a boy pick. That's a Second Amendment pick.
Well, I mean, if the Pokemon show is just an advertisement for Pokemon, then Blastoise is just an advertisement for Lockheed Martin.
Oh no, we hatched it. We figured it out.
So after seeing this transition from video game into the animation of this world, getting an understanding of this is a world where people own these pocket monsters and have them fight each other. Yes, there are some negative connotations that could be associated with the idea
like
of
dog
animals.
fighting.
Yeah, exactly. But
I don't want to colorful dog fighting.
I don't want to focus on that too much because I'm trying to be super
it's
positive.
cool when Ash Ketchum does it, but when Michael Vick does it.
Oh my god. After we see this, we get to meet Ash Ketchum. And then not only does Ash say, yes, I am Ash, and now that I'm 10, I can finally get my Pokemon license, we also get a narrator who also tells us that this is Ash, and he is also 10 years old.
Double anime exposition here. We get the character telling you about themselves and a narrator VO telling you about the character.
Woo. Let them fight.
From this point, we get to learn a little bit of, hey, here are these starting Pokemon. in your town, in this town of Pallet Town, there's a Pokemon expert who is going to help you pick your Pokemon or give you the choice of one of these three. We learn a little bit more about the advantages. And then we get this Ash dreaming sequence that doesn't really do much other than it has a few great jokes in it. Such as, like, there's one moment where Ash is just like, choose it or lose it. And he says it so sincerely that I was just like giggling. And I was like, yeah, that is genuinely just hysterical.
We got to address the elephant in the room here. This kid is 10.
Yes.
This kid is 10.
Yes.
And he's getting ready to go on a journey around the globe, unsupervised, to become a Pokemon master. So
That's when you
just
learn.
a little bit of jumping ahead. We'll backpedal. But Ash is given, when he's out of his journey, his mom gives him a backpack with some changes of clothes, some snacks, and he's told, you're on your own, kid. What is he going to do for food? Where does he stay at night? What does he do for money? He's 10. The kid hasn't even gone through puberty yet. How is he going to get through all these dangerous terrains? This kid could die. Does no one care that this kid could very well die like a day into this?
Anime is not about that. Anime is about glorious adventures of any age. Sailor Moon didn't. Sailor Moon could have died at any time too.
So, Max, you put up a good point, but I will say there is a Japanese show that I love so much called Old Enough, where small children, like no older than 3 years old,
trap rabbit animals to fight each other.
Do amazing things. Like, I've never seen the dog fighting episode, but I'm sure it's in there somewhere. But they also do things like getting ice cream.
Let's not immediately start accusing Japanese kids of dog fighting.
But, like, I will say, on a serious note, there are cultures in the world where, when you turn 10 or, like, a number that might seem ridiculous to us, they do send their children out into the world. And while this is wild,
I assume they're all, like, former USSR territories.
But, like, while this is insane, like, we have to, like, even more so than Ash being on by himself, like, let's take a step back and paint a picture of some of these other 10-year-olds. Like, I think his name is Gary, because Gary's at least 25 years old in the world of this animation. Gary has a fan group, he has a posse, like, and Gary also is a dick as a whole.
Gary is 10, but the actor who plays him is 29.
Goddamn Hollywood.
Oh my god. But, like, as we get to meet Gary and, like, we get to the idea of, like, yeah, Gary's obviously our villain. Gary's the person that we're, like, almost going against, even though we don't see him for more than 30 seconds in this. There's so much, like, I could do an entire thesis on Gary. Gary is a Nepo baby. His grandfather is Professor Oak. Gary tells people to call him Mr. Gary. You're 10 years old. Could you imagine a 10-year-old right now, like, entering your life and being like, yes, I'm Mr. 10-year-old? It's insane.
I just don't know how you expect to become a Pokemon master from such humble beginnings when nepotism runs rampant in this industry.
Yeah.
Well, you do that. You end up having that classic, like the old wise person ends up choosing some other kid with more gumption than their own child, than their own blood, which I love. That's a beautiful trope to see in a TV show like that.
After Gary goes off, Ash and Professor Oak are like, "Hey, let's. I need a Pokemon still," and then this is such a wild scene to me. Like, first of all, just pure comedy of, like, Ash has his first choice. Ash is also, I think Ash wanted a Squirtle at first as well. So, like, Squirtle boys for life, Ash. But then from here, there's like a little joke for, yeah, absolutely. Just like right across, good chest piece. And then as, like, Ash is opening up each of these Pokeballs that are empty, Professor Oak has a fun little joke for each of them, such as early bird gets the Pokemon ? Question mark? And finally, we're left with, hey, every other Pokemon's been chosen. There's one that's left, but it's a little bit unstable. And we are introduced to the cutest little
bipolar Pokemon.
Instantly, I want a plush toy in my home that I can hug when I'm having a bad day. And if it also says its name, I would be so filled with joy.
Every millennial at home watching this and going, I could fix him.
Yeah, Pikachu is he's the Snoopy of Pokemon. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of weird flaws to him, but he's friggin' adorable, and you immediately get attached to him.
Rich, I have never thought of like that before, but like I absolutely love that line of thinking. It is this adorable sidekick character to our like buffoon of a protagonist, at least at this point in time, who is helping to save the day. We don't know that yet, but also has these wild abilities that just seem almost unexplainable as a whole. And we get that first taste of it with Pikachu giving a gigantic thunderbolt and electrocuting everyone around him.
Just a mild shock
from here,
to say hello.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, just like waking up and when you accidentally touch like the carpet and you get shocked. That same feeling. What did you guys think of, like, Max, you talked about it a little bit, with the idea of just like sending your 10-year-old out into the wilderness. What did you think of this scene of like the entire town of Pallet Town just was like surrounding this 10-year-old, sending them off into the woods, being like, yeah, congrats, like fuck right off, and good luck.
Yeah, be gone, child, be gone.
Everyone seems just pretty down for this. Like, it seems a little strange that you can do this 6 years before you can legally drive in Japan. So I don't really know. I didn't have a dad that was like, we got to go hunting. You're going to learn how to kill something and eat it. So I'm like, it just like, maybe I don't relate to this at all, but like, man, it was so smart to figure out immediately your target demographic and make them the protagonist. Like, there's no reason, like, this kid clearly has a lot more mental capacity than an average 10-year-old that can really like fend for himself. There's like, they knew immediately that like 7-year-olds want to be him, 12-year-olds want to be him. They can all connect to him very easily. They went for a really, really wide demographic by having him be so young. It was a very smart move.
So from here, we're not only introduced to our first new toy, which is a Pokedex, which is this like knowledgeable, know-all for the most part, handheld computer.
It's an Amazon Echo.
iPhone before we. Yeah, it's an iPhone before we knew what an iPhone was, in all honesty.
It's also a great exposition tool as far as TV pilots go, because we have a magical device that you could point at anything in the world and it tells you what it is. You, as a writer, that's a dream. Anytime you don't know how to explain something that's happening in your episode, you're like, I don't know, make the Pokedex say it.
And the first instance of this was... like, not only did the Pokedex love the voice of the Pokedex being sassy, and like when Ash is like, yeah, all Pokemon belong in Pokeballs, and then the Pokedex is like, not all Pokemon, just some Pokemon. And then...
yeah, I love that it corrects them unprompted.
Yeah, exactly. But we also meet our first wild Pokemon. We just see a random Pidgeon. Very similar to the game, even, right? Like, the first Pokemon that you meet in that, like, grass field is normally, like, a Pidgeon or a Rattata or something of that sort.
Yeah, every time I go to New York City, I just see Pidgeys everywhere.
Well, stop trying to catch them.
One of the things that... I don't know if this was a lost in translation moment, but the line... Did anyone catch the line that Ash Ketchum said to the Pidgeon before he attempted to throw a Pokeball at it?
This one is for the birds.
Close.
Oh.
It was, enjoy
man.
your last moments of freedom, Pidgey. That was what was said. In
All
this,
right.
like, as a 10-year-old, I might not catch that. But as a, 30-plus-year-old, I was just like, that's a terrifying thing
so
to
we're
say
on
to
from
anyone.
dogfighting to cockfighting. Great.
Yeah, he doesn't. Okay, so he doesn't quite understand the reason why he's doing this yet. which I guess is like important to say, because I don't think this is all about imprisoning these animals. It's not like Mike Tyson's exotic bird like zoo. It's he's training them to basically have as companions, and like the journey is the growth into their evolution. But right now it's just like, I'm gonna catch that bird. That bird looks too free for me. And then
like,
Maya Angelou had to write a poem about it.
What this scene left me is like, first, I'm rooting against Ash. And like in the beginning, I am rooting for this bird. Like, yeah. And then when you find out like, oh, this poor bird, and then the bird creates a sand tornado because it's pissed off, I'm like, I don't know who I'm rooting for, but this is going to be interesting.
Something that Ash does multiple times throughout this pilot is that he tries to shit talk wild animals who don't understand what he's saying. And it ends up going very poorly every time. Now, I was never in Boy Scouts, but I would imagine one of the things they teach you is don't shit talk wild animals because you'll rile them up. And this idiot just keeps riling up wild animals.
No, you can shit talk black bears because they're the bitches of the wild.
No, he's got to be bigger than them.
To be fair, his experience so far with Pikachu fully understands English and has like a lot of situational awareness. I know he can only she, any gender. I know they can only say
they. There we go.
Yeah. I know they can only say one word, but it seems to really understand what's going on and has a great sense of humor about things.
From here, Ash not only pisses off a Pidgey, he pisses off the evolution of Pidgey, which is a Spearow.
No, that is not the evolution of Pidgey. The evolution of Pidgey is Pidgeotto. A Spearow is a different flying type Pokemon.
Oh, I'm sorry, nerd.
Max, I'm gonna
how does it feel to be the nerd of the podcast?
Yeah, Jeff, is there room at the nerd box for two?
Yeah, there's definitely
all right, it's my
room.
podcast now, losers.
And we're talking about baseball. Max mentioned one athlete already.
There was this one scene that, like, I feel was like, or one line that was like thrown in to sort of be like, yeah, it's okay to like take these wild animals and have them as pets. When they say, wild Pokemon tend to be jealous of human trained Pokemon. That's why they're attacking Pikachu. Which,
man,
yeah, no, I've seen the Aristocats. I've seen the Aristocats. I'm aware of this phenomenon.
We get this like slightly terrifying scene of like hundreds of Spearows chasing after a boy and his pet, to the point where we see these wild animals ganging up on Pikachu. And like, I am not going to lie, like, if I'm suspending myself in the disbelief of this pilot, like imagining never seen it before, I am terrified for this little adorable yellow electric mouse that is potentially going to die on screen in a children's cartoon. And like, I am emotional about it at this point in time as well.
Well, don't worry, Jeff. I'm going to ease your fears. Our protagonist is going to rob a young girl.
Yeah. Don't forget that when they meet Misty gets the absolute shaft of this episode. Misty not only has her fishing trip ruined.
Get her name?
We do not get her name.
No.
We just meet this 10-year-old girl that is in a crop top and jean shorts and fishing in a pond or a river that seems to have a ton of terrifying Pokemon in it. And then as Ash is trying to bike for his life, as well as the life of his pet, we just get this. Well, first, we get this amazing piece of music. Like, talking about this pilot, I think we're doing a disservice by not talking about, like, some of the music that was in the background, like, that we might have just taken for granted, but did do a really good job of creating emotional intensity and building up to this climatic point where, as Ash is protecting Pikachu and decides to, try to take the metaphorical bullet, or in this case, the pecking of hundreds of birds, Pikachu decides to basically nuke a small area of a town with a lightning bolt. And I have to assume every single bird is dead because the bike was shown and just absolutely gone.
In the vein of the dogfighting comparison, I think one thing that
let's go back to that.
One thing that they very like clearly establish in this first episode is that creatures are going to get bonked, they're going to get sleepy, they're going to get woozy, they're going to get a little bruised, but they will not get viciously maimed, which I think is pretty nice because these things are throwing a lot of special powers at each other. And I know
they even did that with the games too. Like when you knock them out, it's always they fainted.
They fainted.
It's never. It's never they dead. It's they fainted.
Yeah. It's you don't want to. Yeah, I guess they wouldn't be very valuable if you killed them.
Yeah, they dead. You have to pay the vet $500 to get rid of the body. You have to.
Which you never understood. It's like if you accidentally knocked a Pokemon out that you were trying to catch, and it's like they fainted, you lost your chance. It's like no, they fainted. They're right there. They're on the ground. They're right there. In fact, I could get it easier now.
Put them in a ball.
Oh my god. So as we see Ash and Pikachu wake up from this fight, they are safe. Pikachu has saved the day. Ash and Pikachu may have grown some form of a bond. We see this rainbow phoenix pass over and lead into the next town and sort of guide us on our journey. And the Pokedex has no idea what the fuck that thing is. And it literally is like, I don't know everything. So Max, your exposition box is broken.
Oh, you know
but
what?
Then we also
the Pokedex is Janet from the bleeped out location from another TV channel. God, how do I do this without turn the strike? Do you know what I'm talking about? Darcy Carden?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, for Christ's sake.
Rich, I think everyone who's listening to this podcast knows what you're talking about. So, two things
The blank
happen.
place, you know.
One, we have this narrator director tell us that, like, hey, watch Ash and Pikachu and friends continue their journey.
This is somehow a pilot and a pilot presentation all rolled into one. It's like, here's all the things you'll see in future episodes: action, adventure, friendship, other things.
But then we also get the most iconic part of this pilot.
Oh, baby.
And we get the Pokerap. And I forgot that the Pokerap was divided into different parts originally. And we only hear 32 of the names of different Pokemon. They are in order. So, good for us. But then we find out there are 150 total Pokemon. And if you want to hear all of the Pokemon, you have to watch the show 5 days a week to be able to hear all 5 parts of the song.
God, they're so good at advertising. I have to just give all the props in the world to James D. Train Williams and Baby Floyd, who are on the sung hook and rap parts of this song. They absolutely bodied the hardest rap track of 1998.
I hope.
So,
I really sincerely hope they got just an ass load of money. I hope they're still living off their royalties from this.
So I actually read.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say
No.
I read a recent interview, and by recent I think it was from like 10 years ago, with James D. Train Williams, and he talked about how they basically got paid a studio session, and then they got a buyout for each season. But if you notice, like, the seasons for Pokemon are like 80 something episodes long, not to mention all the CD compilations and things that it was used on, and just how big it became overall. So they basically got a recording fee, and then they got like a one-time kind of lump buyout for each season, even though this was aired, several days a week, almost every week of the year, on channels coast to coast, on CDs that sold millions of copies, because that's, people bought CDs back at this time. And they kind of got gypped. Justice for D. Trade Williams.
So my one fun story about the poker rap, when we were in school, I went on a date with a girl because she knew the entire poker rap. And I found that to be the coolest thing in the world.
And that is now your wife.
That person, nope, that is not my wife. But we had a great time.
I do have a bone to pick, though, with the poker rap.
Go for it.
And there's a line that I can't shake from it, and it's when D. Trade Williams says, "'Cause there's 150 or more to see." It's like, here's a specific number, but it might be wrong.
Well, they didn't know the success of it yet.
God.
Also, okay, I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to put myself in the position of a young kid in 1998 when the show came out. Or 2000? When did the show come out? 98 in the US?
1998.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're sitting at home. This is the first episode that you see. You're already like, what the hell is this? There's like, I already have to know 3 different animals. And now all of a sudden, this guy is rattling off a ton of characters that may or may not be consequential at any point in the show. And I am just overwhelmed with the amount
and again, the game won't come out for 3 more weeks.
Yeah, the connection to the Pokemon rap. This is like I don't know. It's like a strobe light to your brain.
Yeah, I think that, it was brilliant for them to say, hey, the point of the game is to catch them all, right? Like the point of, but at every single turn, very similar to when we did Gem, right? There's a different thing. There's a different thing you have to know or learn or catch or get. We haven't even talked about the trading card game as a whole. And yeah, it's brilliant.
They pulled a fast one on those bozos at the FCC. This is totally an ad to kids.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that was our pilot. Were there any things that you loved about this pilot that we maybe didn't discuss as a whole?
I've got 2 on my end. The first is I love that it feels like an actual pilot, despite being a children's animated show. Like, clearly this is going to be episodic in nature, but you have an inciting incident. You have like your hero's journey. You have that all is lost moment in the woods, like right before Pikachu springs into action. You have a resolution. So like it follows like good storytelling beats, which is really impressive for what's basically a glorified commercial. The second thing is I love that they animated physical comedy with Pikachu. The scene up top when Ash is first trying to get Pikachu into a Pokeball, he just keeps throwing the ball at Pikachu and it keeps deflecting it with its tail at different angles back to Ash. Incredible physical comedy. I really want to know how many takes it took to get that right, but it works. It looks so good on camera.
Rich, what about you?
Oh, I didn't realize that the strike was over. We're doing our regular scripted features again. I think I just like, I don't know. I forgot how adorable this whole show was. I mean, obviously the drama between 10-year-olds is like way overblown, but I like everything about this show. It really does make you feel like you're a 10-year-old kid getting your first dog and just like making up adventures and stuff like that. You really do capture that feeling really, really well. And it makes so much sense that the creator like compared it to catching critters in his backyard and everything. It really is like, it's a very human feeling, and it's really cool that like a grown ass adult man can harness that feeling with a TV show.
Yeah, and I would say, like, to add on to that, Rich, I like genuinely, this was the show that like I was holding my dog as tightly as I could. I was like I was telling my 2 dogs, like, you 2 are my little Pokemon, like, and I love you both so much, like, you're my Pikachus. Like,
I was worried you're gonna make them fight.
Yeah, no, not. They do that on their own. I don't need to help them.
They're wild,
but like, it's one of those shows that was, even though it was for kids, like, if I was a parent watching this with my 10-year-old, I'd be like, you know what? I could sit down and watch another one of these really easily. And I would be genuinely 100% cool with like, we'll talk about how many episodes there are, but like, yeah, I could. And the initial concept of jumping into this would not seem that daunting. Like any pilot, there are wait a minute moments in this show. We've talked about a few of them. Anything outside of what we've talked about that you'd like to bring to light?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna ruin the Pokemon theme song for everyone. So I did a little bit of digging into the vocalist behind that song, studio musician by the name of Jason Page. He's performed with touring acts, Vegas residencies over the years. He also, in 2008, was a staunch supporter of Ron Paul's campaign for president and wrote a full parody of the Pokemon theme about how many electorates Ron Paul was going to win.
He Dilbert guyed himself.
So this Ron Paul rewrite of the Pokemon theme song is available on YouTube to watch in full. There's a whole infographic about where Ron Paul's going to win and how well he's going to do in the election. Pokemon did a little bit better. Also found out that he is a like very vocal anti-circumcision advocate.
What a hill to die on.
Does not believe you need to cut them all. Believes you need to catch them all.
Son of a bitch.
But I went a little too deep into researching Jason Page, vocalist of the Pokemon theme song, and I wish I didn't. But yeah, go look up the Ron Paul parody. It's definitely worth like 3 minutes of your life.
So, Rich, what about you? Any wait a minute moments for you?
I'm so glad you dug that up. Yeah. What's a Pokeball made out of? Listen closely. A Pokeball seems to be every single size that there is. It's a small enough to squeeze into your pocket. It's as big enough to put a giant monster inside of. What are these things made of? They can also escape from them at any time. They have to like be in there willingly in some weird like black void of existence where they're like both alive and not alive at the same time. And then you can only be summoned by some sort of creator or master or owner or anything like that. What are we doing here exactly? I know it's a cartoon. I know it's for children. What the fuck are Pokeballs made of?
Oh God. I mean, I couldn't agree more with you that is absolutely insane. There's also, like, you didn't even talk about Electrode, who looks like a Pokemon, which then brings to the chicken or the egg concept of which came first, Electrode or the Pokeball. Did the guy who made the Pokeball get influenced by Electrode? Does he owe royalties to Electrode? Lots of questions. Yeah, for me, as far as wait a minute moments, I think that we talked about how this is a brilliant moment in advertising, but also it's terrifying that this is just one gigantic advertisement. Even I think I would have been a little bit less terrified if maybe there wasn't the producer or the executive's narration on top of it, and we just let it lie as hey, here's a pilot, cool, and Ash can talk for himself, and Pokedex is exposition tool. But at the same time, I'm like, holy shit, I can't wait for us to do more shows that we watched as kids, because I'm guessing this is going to be a common theme that we find in a lot of the shows that we used to enjoy. We do have an in-flight question. Our in-flight question came to us from Instagram. Make sure to follow us. Because we sometimes ask for questions and you can just type them in really easily. Our in-flight question this week comes from Ben. If you had to choose one Pokemon to follow you into the bathroom every time you had to do the business, and there was always a 25% chance it would spontaneously use its powers, which Pokemon would it be? So, since I've had a little bit more time with this question, I decided that there is a Pokemon that intuitively heals folks that are around it, or heals other Pokemon, and that is Chansey. So you know what? Sometimes when I'm in the bathroom, I have a little icky feeling in my tummy, and it would be really nice if Chansey, that one of every 4 times, helped me like relieve some of that ickiness and made me feel all better. Max, what about you?
So when I was first presented with this question, my initial instinct was to say Ditto, because if Ditto were to use its powers, it would just be me in the bathroom again. And like, as far as like weird factor goes, I think just like me also going to the bathroom isn't the weirdest thing. It's like when you're next to someone at the urinal, like I could deal with it. I think Meowth would be my other one here, because it's like, listen, if you've ever had a cat, the cat just tries to get into the bathroom. That's what cats do. They're going to try and paw at the door. They're going to try to get in the bathroom. Most of the time, you're in there doing the business anyways. I don't think it would be that weird. I grew up with a cat. I'm used to it. I'm going to say Meowth.
Damn,
Rich, what about you?
That's such a good one. All right. I have less of experience of remembering any of these characters, so I think I'm going Max's same thought process. Is it Persian or Persian or something like that? I think I don't know how you pronounce it, but I think that's
Persian.
also Persian. Okay, you're definitely going with the cat's going to sit at your feet or sit on your lap or something like that while you're there. If you're worried about going with a psychic Pokemon, don't, because I just scrolled past Lickitung and I'm gonna get out of this. This doesn't seem like my research anymore. I would say if you're going with Psychic, I don't mind those powers going off at any point because I'm already just like staring at my phone for most of the time. So it's basically like I'm in a trance already.
I mean, solid. I was going to say the runner-up for me, even though this could get problematic at times, depending where I am, is Jigglypuff. If you guys remember, Jigglypuff makes people fall asleep. So if I am sitting down while
So you get
going
hemorrhoids,
to the
Jeff.
bathroom, so be it. I need to get sleep where I can, and sometimes that is on the toilet. But thank you so much for that in-flight question, Ben. We'll talk a little bit more about other places to submit those at the end of the episode. Well, it is time to talk about the legacy of this show, and holy shit!
I got a couple episodes.
When something's been around for 25 years, there's a little bit of a legacy, including 25 seasons and 1,253 episodes
Woo-wee!
and counting. This is the largest show that we have ever done as far as episode count. There are also 23 separate animated films and multiple spin-offs, including variety shows in Japan.
God.
Wait, hold on, elaborate there.
I am choosing. You can go and do your own research about some of the variety shows because
No, I choose you.
Son of a bitch.
So, speaking to this show was truly a global phenomenon. I think we would really need another episode just to talk about how financially successful this series was and how large of an impact it had on culture over the last 25 years, not just even in the beginning.
Who's that net worth?
Just to give y'all an idea, just in Japan, the show is estimated to have created $934 million in revenue just for content over the past 10 years, which is absolutely insane. Multiple video games, including mobile games, trading card series, fights broken out in your local Target because of trading cards. To give you an idea of how this show has grown, there were originally 150, then 151, and we're up to 1,020.
Or more to see.
Oh my god.
Open-ended. It's always open-ended.
In a small spoiler, I do want to congratulate Ash Ketchum. Ash, after 25 years, finally became the greatest Pokemon master of all, earning the world title in 2023. Just in case you were curious.
Good for him.
Yeah, Ash did not end up owning all 1,020 Pokemon. as we are recording this episode, that is how many there are. But he did reach an impressive total of 98 different species, including a herd of cattle Pokemon that he had on a ranch. So good for you. I actually
these Hollywood celebrities, they get the money, they buy the ranch in Montana, they got the herd of cattle,
Wait. Okay. They made
like,
a team
I'm just gonna say
it. Made so many Pokemon that they're like, I don't know, cow.
I'm going to say I would watch the Pokemon version of a TV show that is named after one of our greatest national parks. Just going to leave that there. Executives, call me.
Is that yellow version?
So one of the things that I found super surprising about the show is, and it's one of the things that happens with children's shows for the most part, is awards are sort of limited to a few different networks. What I found really surprising, though, was in the 25 years that this show has been on so many networks and in the cultural zeitgeist, it's only ever received one nomination and lost that nomination, which was a Blimp Award from Nickelodeon for Best Animated Show. So, yeah, they really, while this is not the most nominated show or the most awarded show that we have ever done, I do want to say it's still very much a celebrated, culturally relevant show that has made its mark despite not having a trophy case to show it. But whomever, created it have millions, if not billions of dollars in their bank account because of something. And, what's more valuable? Awarding art or money, zeros in your bank account?
I mean, while we're talking about the recognition of Pokemon, I call getting an EGOT beating the Elite Four.
Wait, which one is each element?
Oh my god. So with that being said, as far as the legacy of the show, it's continuing, it's going on, but Rich, it is now time for your game of the week.
Yeah, let's do it. Ba, ba, ba. I wanna be. This is the theme song for Rich's Game of the Week. I wanna be the very best. Okay. I want to see if you guys can do possibly my most difficult challenge yet. I have 6 real Pokemon and 6 types of cheese from around the world. I want you to see if you can decipher any of them.
Is this original 151 or is this all Pokemon generations?
All of them.
Oh god. This is terrifying. American cheddar I know is a cheese, so let's just get that out of the way.
All right, that eliminates the first couple. Max, first one goes to you. Okay. Cyrene.
Cyrene. I am going to say that is a type of cheese.
That is a type of cheese, correct.
Very nice.
Geoff. Raboot.
For a second, I'm just like, reboot. That's something else. That's something that a friend of ours is on. No, I am going to say Raboot is a Pokemon.
That is correct.
Hey, let's go.
Max.
I have never
Greedent.
seen Geoff think harder in his entire life. Sorry, mate. Can you repeat the question?
Greedent.
Greedent. I'm going to say that is a Pokemon.
Correct. That is a Pokemon. Geoff, Mulbo.
Mulbo?
Mulbo.
Can I get a country of origin?
I don't believe that would help.
I am going to say that Mulbo is a. Let's take a chance. Let's say it's a Pokemon.
Mulbo is a type of cheese.
Oh, motherfucker.
This is so funny to me. I'm so sorry. You guys are doing really good, but it's still so funny to me. Max, Snowfrisk.
That just feels too much like actual words, so I'm going to say cheese.
It is cheese. Geoff, Ice Cube.
Fuck it, it's a Pokemon. It's
a Pokemon.
Yeah. Well, Rich, thank.
We got more, baby.
Oh no,
Because there's 150. Oh.
Cheeses to count. All right. Max, more Pico.
I mean, that's this pilot needed, but I'm going to say type of cheese.
That is a Pokemon.
No! My perfect record!
Geoff, Xenotyro.
Wait, excuse me?
Xenotyro. I'm not saying my pronunciation is dead on here.
I'm just imagining. I want to know how this is spelled, first of all, because I'm imagining 3 different versions of that.
Yeah, and it's none of those.
Yeah. I'm going to say
You're way off.
Xenotyro, I think it's spelled with an X, and I'm going to say it is a Pokemon.
It is spelled with an X. Well done. And it is a type of cheese. Max, Yamandu.
I am going to say that is a type of cheese.
That is a type of cheese, correct? Geoff, Iron Crown.
I'm just, it's all Pokemon. It's all Ohio. It's all Pokemon.
It's all Pokemon, all done. That is a Pokemon. Well done. Last one, because I know where this has a diminishing return. Max, Akawi.
Oh, I mean, I want to end on a high note here. Let's go, Pokemon.
It's a type of cheese.
No!
Yeah.
Well, Rich.
Who's that cheese?
Oh my god. Well, Rich, thank you so much for that game of the week. As this fight comes to an end, I have 2 more questions for each of you gentlemen. One is, based off of this pilot, would you continue watching this show? And then, 25 years is a hell of a run. Do you think that this show should be continuing on the airways as it currently is? Rich, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, hell yeah. First of all, you got to catch them all. You got to catch all the episodes. You gotta keep going. If you don't do that, you're gonna let everyone down inside this fictional world. I don't want to do that. I don't want to make fictional creatures sad. So I am literally, it is compulsive for me to watch the second episode. Whether or not I think they're gonna keep making the show, or they should keep making the show, maybe stop making new Pokemon, but keep going with stories and stuff like that. I feel like the new Pokemon are kind of non-consequential, except for like selling cards or collecting things on Pokemon Go and everything. But the legacy of Pokemon Go specifically, like, it was such a massive phenomenon literally overnight that I can't imagine that the popularity of the show dipped at all. I think, if anything, it probably had a massive resurgence.
Max, what about you?
I mean, it's a really good children's animated pilot in terms of making you want to go on this journey and watch more. It's just, as Pokemon attacks say, it's super effective. So yeah, I definitely could see myself watching more of this. Plus, I found out that I could watch all of it through the Pokemon TV app on my Nintendo Switch. So I don't have an excuse not to do it, baby. Do I think that it should be like remade, rebooted? It's hard to say. It's just such a 90s artifact to me. And yeah, I have no desire to learn the name of a single new generation Pokemon. I think that, sure, you could definitely do a version with the original 151 for a nostalgia factor and like go back to this world and revisit it in a new direction. Yeah, why not? Sure, do it. I don't care.
And then for myself, I would say, one, based off of the pilot, hell yeah, right? Like, this is absolutely, like, not only do I find that it does a great job of enveloping you into the world as a whole, but I also think that it does a really good job of just being good animated television, good anime as a whole. Should this show continue? I don't see an end in sight, y'all. I can't wait for in 25 years where there's 10,000 Pokemon, and each Pokemon has a subclass. And, you know, if you don't know at least 1,000 of them, you're considered a boomer. So can't wait for that. But in all honesty, yeah, I don't see this stopping anytime soon. It's really fun seeing a new generation fall in love with something that, you know, I fell in love with when I was 10. So can't wait. With that being said, and as our flight has come to a land, where can we find you two gentlemen?
You could catch me Pokemon going to the polls and on all things social.
Man, oh, you almost made it. You almost made it.
Well, I am just pausing for the laughter.
Lock him up.
I'm pausing for the laughter so they know where to find me. You can find me on all things social media at Maxwell Singh.
Rich, what about you?
You can find me returning Misty's bike. What are we doing? Return the bike. and also on Instagram at Damn That's Rich. You can find Max and my sketch comedy at Dadwagon Comedy on TikTok.
And you can find me forcing 10-year-olds to go out in the woods with wild animals. And they can't come back until they've caught all of the wild animals. But if you're looking for me on social media, you can find me at Run Geoff Run. You can find the TV Pilot's License anywhere you listen to podcasts, as well as YouTube, and on most social media at TV Pilot's License. If you have a question about the show or for our next episode, you can email us at tvpilotslicense@gmail.com or give us a call at 213-290-1713. Make sure to watch out for our Instagram for a sneak preview of some of our upcoming episodes. But with the plane landed, the seatbelt sign off, we look forward to flying the bright skies of the TV world with you again soon. And until then, gotta catch 'em all.